His voice was low, his control gone. "Your body drives me insane." The Lycan King growled, trembling with a power he couldn't cage. She wasn't just his weakness, she was his destiny. But in a kingdom where love is forbidden, will desire save them or destroy everything? Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's video, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your country or city in the comments below. It truly amazes me how far our community reaches around the world. All right, now let's begin. The night was restless. Rain beat against the stone walls of the castle like impatient fists, echoing through corridors older than memory. Inside the grand hall, the moonlight leaked through shattered glass windows, painting silver streaks across the floor. Arya stood in the middle of it, her breath trembling, her pulse loud in her ears. She hadn't meant to hear him. She hadn't meant to see that side of him. But she had followed the sound of someone in pain. And what she found was the Lycan King himself, on his knees, his claws buried in the floor, his body shaking like a storm. Then his head snapped up, eyes glowing molten gold. "Your body drives me insane," he growled, voice deep and trembling, not with anger, but restraint. The words froze her. Arya's hands clenched against her chest, as if to still the wild thundering of her heart. She'd never heard anyone speak like that, not to her. She wasn't noble, she wasn't powerful. She was a servant, one who mopped marble floors and scrubbed the scent of blood from the walls after the full moon feasts. But the way he looked at her, the way his voice broke as though her presence alone hurt him from the inside, made her feel like she had stepped into something forbidden, something dangerous. I shouldn't be here," she whispered, voice barely audible over the storm. But his eyes didn't leave her. He took one slow step forward, then another, each movement heavy with unspoken war between the beast and the man trapped inside. The scents of rain and wolf filled the air. Arya backed away until her spine hit the cold stone wall. The Lycan King's shadow fell over her, massive, trembling, desperate. His breathing was ragged, his control thinning. "Do you have any idea what it means for a king to lose control?" Arya shook her head, unable to speak. Lightning split the night behind him, and for a moment she saw the agony in his face. Not lust, not hunger, but fear. Fear of himself. "You shouldn't have come here, little one. Now you can't leave." His hand slammed against the wall beside her, claws sparking against the stone, trapping her between his shadow and his truth. Arya's knees almost gave out, but her voice returned in a whisper. "If you're going to hurt me, do it quickly." His eyes widened at that, pain flashing across his face. "Hurt you?" he echoed. "I've torn through armies, but hurting you would destroy me." His control was slipping. She could see it. The veins in his neck pulsed, his jaw tightened, and for a second his fangs caught the moonlight. The thunder roared, but his voice cut through it, low, trembling, honest. "You don't understand, Arya. I've searched centuries for you, and now that you're here, every instinct I have wants to claim you. But if I do, I lose my soul." Her breath hitched. The storm outside howled, but something inside her, something older, stirred in answer. A memory she didn't own, a voice she didn't recognize whispered, "You were never meant to run from him." Arya didn't know why tears burned her eyes. The Lycan King stepped back suddenly, clawing at his chest, as if her nearness hurt him. "Go, before I forget who I am." But her feet wouldn't move. The moment their eyes locked again, the thunder stopped, as if the whole world was holding its breath. And that's when she realized the truth. The monster the kingdom feared wasn't the beast standing before her. It was the destiny binding them both. Dawn crept over the mountains like a hesitant confession. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean and glistening. Arya stood at the well behind the castle, scrubbing the last traces of dirt from her hands, though the memory of the Lycan King's eyes refused to rinse away. Every drop of water felt like a heartbeat. Every breath carried the echo of his voice. The servants moved around her, laughing, gossiping, pretending that last night hadn't happened, but Arya felt the weight of his words coiled inside her like a living thing. "You can't leave." She looked toward the castle's tallest tower, where smoke rose from the chimneys, and wondered if he was watching her even now. Inside the castle kitchen, the scent of bread and honey masked the faint trace of iron, blood that never quite left the stones. "Arya?" The head maid, Greta, waved a ladle like a weapon. "You're late again. Do you think your chores can wait until the moon turns gold?" Arya lowered her head. "Sorry, ma'am." She hid her trembling hands beneath her apron. Greta's sharp eyes softened for a moment. "You were always the strange one, quiet, listening to things no one else hears?" Arya almost smiled. "If only you knew what I heard last night." She reached for a loaf, but her fingertips brushed a silver coin instead. The crest stamped on it, the wolf, crowned in flame, belonged only to the king. He'd left it for her, on purpose. The mark burned through the fabric of her pocket as she carried trays up the servants' staircase. The narrow hall smelled of pine and candle smoke. Her heart hammered with every step closer to the royal wing. When she reached the final door, guards turned their backs, an unspoken order from above. The king didn't want witnesses. She slipped inside. The chamber was dim, sunlight spilling through torn curtains. He stood by the window, shirt half-buttoned, his shoulders tense, his voice rough but quiet. "I thought you'd run." Arya swallowed hard. "You told me I couldn't." A shadow of a smile crossed his face, tired and aching. "And you obeyed. Why?" She searched for words and found only truth. "Because something in me believed you weren't a monster." Silence stretched between them, fragile as glass. Then he turned, eyes darker than the night before. "Monsters don't fear the ones they desire. I fear you." His jaw clenched. "Because when I look at you, I remember the man I was before the curse." Her chest tightened. "The curse?" He nodded slowly. "The crown that binds me, the blood that built this kingdom, it feeds on those I love. That's why I keep everyone distant. But you, your scent cuts through centuries." Arya's heart pounded. She should have felt flattered or frightened, but she felt seen. The Lycan King turned away sharply, as if the confession itself burned him. "Forget what I said. Serve the queen at dusk and never come here again." He moved to leave, but the coin in his pocket flared hot, glowing faintly through the cloth. The king froze, eyes widening. "Where did you get that?" She hesitated. "You left it." His expression shifted from surprise to something darker, fear. "That's not possible," he whispered. "That coin belongs to the first Louna, the woman I lost to the curse." The room seemed to tilt. Arya's hand trembled as she held the coin out. "Then why did it call to me?" His gaze locked on hers. "Because maybe," he said softly, "you're the reason she never returned." The castle bells tolled noon, their echo bleeding through the misty air like a warning no one could interpret. Arya stood before the mirror in her small quarters, the silver coin resting in her palm. It pulsed faintly, warm against her skin, as though alive. Every time she blinked, She saw flashes that weren't hers. A woman in white, standing on a cliff, a hand dripping with blood, a wolf kneeling before a dying moon. Arya gripped the edge of the basin until her knuckles went white. "Who are you?" she whispered. The coin shimmered once more, and faint letters appeared along the edge. Ancient, curved, breathing with light. She couldn't read them, but somehow she understood. "You will return to finish what you began." Her reflection trembled in the mirror, eyes faintly glowing gold for the briefest second. Greta's knock snapped her back to the present. "Arya, the queen demands you in her chambers." The queen. The woman everyone feared but never saw. Arya tucked the coin beneath her dress and followed the winding halls, her mind still spinning. The queen's chambers were draped in velvet, the scent of those is failing to hide decay beneath. She lay reclined on a silver couch, pale and beautiful, with eyes sharp enough to slice through silence. "You're the new servant who caught the king's attention," the queen said without looking up from her goblet. Arya froze. I serve where I'm told." The queen smirked, her voice smooth as poison silk. "Then serve wisely. The king's affection has killed before." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Arya bowed and turned to leave, but the queen's next words stopped her cold. "Tell me, Arya, has he given you a coin yet?" Arya's heart stuttered. "A coin?" she repeated, her voice carefully blank. The queen's gaze lifted, and for the first time Arya saw the hollowness in her eyes, like a star that had burned too long. "Don't play innocent," she murmured. "Every few generations, he gives that coin to a girl who reminds him of her. The first Louna, the one who cursed him. They all end up dead." Arya's breath caught in her throat. "You think I'm next?" The queen smiled faintly. "No, you're not next. You're the last." The air thickened, charged with something ancient. Arya fled the room, clutching the coin so tightly it burned her palm. Behind her, the queen whispered, "And when he remembers who you really are, pray he loves you more than he hates fate." Night fell heavy, moonlight bleeding through her window like cold fire. Arya couldn't sleep. The king's voice from the night before haunted her. His pain, his restraint, his trembling control. She drew the coin from beneath her pillow, and the markings glowed brighter now, pulsing to the rhythm of her heartbeat. The walls seemed to hum, the air vibrating with a deep growl from somewhere far below the castle. Then a voice, low, ancient, filled with longing, slid through her mind. "Arya." She gasped, spinning toward the door, but no one stood there. "You were mine before the curse. You will be mine again." She pressed her hands to her ears, trembling. "Stop! You're not real." But the voice only grew stronger. "Come to the crypt. Find what he buried." She shouldn't have obeyed, but something deeper, older, moved her feet. The halls were dark, torches sputtering as she passed. Beneath the castle, the air was thick with dust and forgotten sorrow. She followed the whisper to an iron door marked with the crest of the first Louna. Her fingers shook as she pushed it open. Inside, the air glowed faintly blue. At the center of the crypt lay a stone coffin, and carved into its lid was a woman's face identical to her own. The coin in her hand turned hot, forcing her to drop it. The lid trembled, dust swirling like mist. Then, from somewhere behind her, a low growl filled the crypt. "You weren't supposed to find this," came his voice, low, broken, trembling with fury and something else entirely. "Now you'll remember everything I tried to forget." The crypt breathed. Every torch flickered as though the stone walls themselves were alive, remembering. Aria's heart pounded so loud it echoed like thunder through the hollow chamber. The Lycan King stepped from the shadows, his eyes half wild, half broken. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but his voice trembled, not with anger, but grief. The coffin between them pulsed faintly with blue light, casting ghostly ripples across his face. "Whose grave is this?" Aria asked, though she already knew. The markings, the features carved in stone, the aura, it all whispered one name: Louna. The king's jaw tightened. "Hers," he said quietly. "The first woman I ever loved, the one who cursed me." His eyes rose to meet hers, gold burning with torment. "And now you wear her face?" Aria's pulse quickened. "You think I'm her?" she asked, her voice barely more than a breath. He stepped closer, the air between them tightening. "I don't think, Aria. I feel it. Every time I'm near you, the curse pulls tighter, like the moon demanding blood." He reached for her hand but stopped just short, trembling. Her soul was bound to mine by rage, not love. It was supposed to end centuries ago. Aria's throat closed around a truth she couldn't name. "And if I really am her?" The question hung heavy. He looked away, pain slicing through his expression. "Then I'm destined to kill you again." The words hit her like a blade. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. Then a sharp crack, stone splitting. The coffin's lid shifted, and cold air poured out like a sigh from the grave. Blue fire burst from the seams, circling them both. The crypt shudders as whispers rose, voices overlapping, ancient and grieving. Aria staggered back, clutching her chest as visions flashed. A moonlit war, a woman screaming, the king kneeling before her with blood on his hands. "Stop!" she gasped. The Lycan King roared, his aura flaring, trying to contain the energy. "It's her memory," he shouted over the storm of light. "She's remembering." The air cracked, and suddenly the whispers fell silent. Aria collapsed, panting, tears streaking her cheeks. "I saw you," she whispered. You begged me to live." The king froze, his hands trembling. "And you refused," he whispered back, voice breaking. "You died to punish me for loving you." The glow dimmed, leaving only the soft light of torches and the sound of their uneven breathing. Aria rose unsteadily. Her legs trembled, but her gaze was steady. "If that's true, then maybe I came back to forgive you." He looked at her as if she'd spoken the impossible. "Forgive?" he repeated. "After what I did?" His voice cracked with raw emotion. "I slaughtered nations to bring her back. I burned gods for her soul. And now she stands before me, human, fragile, unremembering?" He took a step closer until the warmth of his breath brushed her skin. "Do you have any idea what that does to me?" Aria met his gaze, her voice shaking. "Then prove you're not the monster you were." For the first time in centuries, the king looked afraid, not of fate, but of himself. The ground beneath them rumbled once more, a distant growl echoing through the crypt walls. The blue light sank into the stone coffin and vanished, leaving behind only the coin, now split in two. One half rolled to Aria's feet, the other to his. They both bent at the same moment, their hands brushing. The contact sent a spark up their arms, bright and searing. The king's breath hitched. "The curse is waking," he murmured. Aria clenched her half of the coin, a strange calm settling over her. "Then maybe it's time we find out what it wants." The Lycan King's golden eyes burned in the darkness. "It doesn't want anything. It wants you." The moon rose higher that night, its silver light slicing through the mist as if searching for her. Arya sat by the ruined window of her chamber, her fingers tracing the jagged edge of the broken coin. Every breath felt heavier, her heartbeat sinking with the rhythm that wasn't hers, deep, wild, ancient. From below, she could hear the restless sounds of the pack. Growls, claws scraping stone, the Lycan King's voice, low, commanding, and trembling with something that wasn't anger. "Keep your distance," he growled. "No one touches her." But the way he said it didn't sound like an order. It sounded like a promise. A dangerous, desperate promise. She tried to sleep, but her body burned as though lightning had rooted beneath her skin. The moment she closed her eyes, she saw him, the king. His bare chest streaked with silver scars, his golden eyes glowing through fog. His voice echoed in her mind. "You feel it too, don't you? The bond, the hunger." Arya gasped awake, clutching the sheets. The air shimmered faintly around her, like invisible threads tightening. Then a shadow moved in the doorway. He was there, the Lycan King. His expression was unreadable, torn between restraint and something far darker. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said quietly, stepping inside. "The moon's pull is strongest during the first bond echo." Arya swallowed, backing away. "And what happens if I stay near you?" His jaw tightened. "You'll hear me before you see me. You'll feel my heart in your skin." His voice was rough, half growl, half prayer. Arya's pulse fluttered as she whispered, "Then tell me what I am to you." His breath caught. "A curse, a salvation. I don't know anymore." He reached out, not touching her, just hovering a breath away. The tension in the room thickened like smoke. "When you were reborn, the curse didn't end, it changed. Now, every time I fight it, it drives deeper." His gaze dropped, voice shaking. "Your scent, it tears through my control. Every night I smell it, I lose another piece of myself." Arya's chest tightened. "So you're saying this is my fault?" she whispered. His eyes flicked up, glowing gold. "No," he said hoarsely. "I'm saying your existence keeps me from losing what's left of my soul." A low rumble rolled through the castle walls, the pack howling as one under the full moon. The king's shoulders tensed, the muscles along his back shifting like a storm beneath his skin. Arya watched in awe and fear as his control slipped, the beast beneath him straining to emerge. His breath came ragged, his eyes flickering between gold and black. "Get out. Now." But she didn't move. Something in her, deeper than fear, angered her to him. "I'm not leaving you." Her words broke through his restraint like a blade through silk. In one swift motion, he turned, his body shaking, voice cracking through clenched teeth. "You don't understand what happens when I lose control." The walls trembled as he fell to one knee, his claws digging into the stone. "The howl beneath my skin, it's not just rage, Arya. It's you." The air exploded with energy. Arya fell to her knees beside him, the bond thrumming between them like a living heartbeat. Her touch burned against his arm, sending a pulse of silver light through his veins. He roared, half pain, half release, as the transformation halted mid-shift, suspended between man and beast. His eyes glowing bright as the moon itself locked onto hers. "You stopped it. No one's ever stopped it." Arya's voice trembled. "Maybe that's what the curse wants, to be tamed." He stared at her, chest heaving, the wild fury in his face softening to awe. "Or maybe," he whispered, "it wants to love you until it kills me." The castle's great hall glowed crimson beneath the rising blood moon. Every flicker of torchlight danced across the ancient wolf banners, their edges stained with generations of battle. The pack had gathered, hundreds of eyes, golden and silver, watching from the shadows. At the head of it all stood the Lycan King, his expression carved from stone. Beside him, under the faint shimmer of moonlight, stood Arya. The whispers swirled like smoke through the crowd. A servant? A human? They didn't know what she was, or what she had become. The king raised his hand, silencing the murmurs. "Tonight," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "the blood moon rises not for conquest, but for truth. The curse that binds me has found its key." His gaze turned to Arya. The air thickened with disbelief. One of the elders stepped forward, his silver beard brushing his chest. "Your Majesty," he growled, "the blood moon demands a vow sealed in blood. If she is your key, then prove it." The crowd snarled their agreement. Arya's pulse thundered. She turned to the king. "What does he mean?" His jaw clenched. "They want me to claim you before the pack, to bind you to me under the blood moon." Her breath caught. "Claim her? In front of them all?" His voice softened. "If I don't, they'll tear you apart before sunrise." She looked up at him, fear warring with something deeper. "And if you do?" He stepped closer, lowering his forehead to hers. "Then your soul will carry my mark forever." The hall erupted into low growls and murmurs. The elder raised a ceremonial blade, its edge glowing red. "Do you vow before the blood moon to unite your soul with hers?" the elder intoned. The king's voice trembled, raw and dangerous. "I do." His blood dripped onto the blade. "And you, human?" Arya's voice barely left her lips. "I do." The instant her words filled the air, the torches flared white-hot. The moon's light poured through the windows, striking her chest. The coin she'd carried since that night burned with unbearable heat, fusing into her skin, its mark now glowing like molten silver over her heart. She gasped, falling to her knees as the king caught her, his own veins flashing gold. The bond snapped into place, ancient, unbreakable. The crowd roared, some in rage, others in awe. The elder dropped to his knees, whispering, "The Louna has returned." But before anyone could speak again, a sharp scream echoed through the hall. One of the guards stumbled forward, blood dripping from his mouth, a blade buried in his back. Chaos exploded. Shadows darted across the walls, rogue wolves with eyes like burning coals. Betrayal. The king roared, shoving Arya behind him as claws tore through the crowd. "Get her out!" he shouted, shifting halfway before the transformation stopped mid-breath. His power faltered. The curse was resisting. Arya's eyes widened as the rogues surrounded them, their leaders smirking beneath a hood. "So it's true," he hissed. "The king has fallen for the servant?" He tore his hood away, revealing a scar that mirrored the king's own. "Brother." The room went silent. The king froze, blood dripping from his knuckles. "Lucian," he said softly, "I killed you." Lucian smiled, his fangs gleaming. "You tried." Arya's chest heaved as she felt the bond pulsing between them, urging her to fight, to protect him. The blood moon glared down through shattered glass as the brothers faced each other, one cursed by love, the other by vengeance. The rogues circled closer, growls rumbling through the air. "You chose a human over your crown? So now, brother, you'll lose them both." The king's eyes glowed gold, his voice shaking with barely contained fury. "Touch her, and I'll end you before you take your next breath." Lucian grinned. "Then let's see if love makes you weak." And under the blood moon's burning light, The battle for the kingdom and Arya's life began. The hall was chaos, steel, claws, and the sound of breaking stone. The rogues moved like a storm, fast and coordinated, their leader, Lucian, at the center, his crimson eyes locked on the Lycan King. The once holy chamber that had witnessed oaths of loyalty now dripped with betrayal. Arya's breath came fast, her ears ringing with every crash of battle. She could feel the pull of the bond inside her chest. Each time the king was struck, pain lanced through her like lightning. "Cairo!" she cried, using his true name for the first time. He turned, blood streaking his face, eyes burning gold. "Stay behind me!" he shouted. But the floor beneath her trembled. One of the rogues lunged from behind. Arya spun, ducking on instinct. The air shifted around her. Her hands flared with the same molten light that had branded her during the blood moon vow. The rogue's strike never landed. His claws froze inches from her throat, trapped in midair by a shimmer of silver energy. Arya stared, terrified and awestruck. He saw it too, and for a heartbeat, his rage faltered. "You're awakening." But before he could reach her, Lucian attacked. Their blades met with a deafening crash, metal shrieking. "You cursed us all for her. You let love destroy the balance." Cairo's jaw tightened. "You destroyed it long before she came." Sparks flew as their blades collided again, power meeting power. Arya stumbled backward as her glow dimmed. The hall was burning now, the stone cracking under the pressure of their fight. Each time their swords clashed, the walls trembled. The remaining pack members rallied, pushing the rogues toward the doors. "Protect the Louna!" someone shouted. Arya froze. Louna? The word didn't feel real. She was just a servant, a human with scars and secrets. But now the mark on her chest throbbed like a heartbeat of its own. She looked up. Cairo's form was changing, half wolf, half man, fur streaked with gold. Lucian mirrored him, but his was darker, fur black as shadow, eyes glowing like blood. The brothers moved in a blur, too fast for her to follow. The fight shifted outside into the courtyard. The blood moon hung directly overhead, its reflection painting the marble red. The rogues poured after them, howling. Arya followed, her body moving before her mind could stop it. The cold air stung her face as she emerged into the moonlight. The bond pulled her forward again, stronger, almost alive. When Cairo struck Lucian across the chest, the pain ripped through her body too, knocking her to her knees. "No!" she gasped. "Stop!" Her cry echoed through the air like a command, not a plea. Every wolf froze in mid-motion. Even Lucian turned, his eyes narrowing. "What did you just do?" he hissed. The glow from her mark flared, illuminating the courtyard. The winds picked up, spiraling around her as if it obeyed her will. "She carries the moonfire," one of the elders whispered in horror. Lucian's snarl deepened. "Impossible. That power died centuries ago." Cairo staggered to his feet, his breath ragged. "No," he said softly. "It only slept, waiting for her." Arya's pulse pounded in her ears. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew one thing. If she didn't control it, she'd destroy everything. Lucian saw her hesitation and grinned. "You don't even know what you are," he taunted, drawing his sword. "Then allow me to remind you how powerless humans truly are." He lunged. Cairo roared, intercepting the strike, but Lucian's blade nicked her shoulder, sending fire through her veins. The moonfire inside her erupted. Silver light exploded outward, consuming the courtyard in a blinding wave. The rogues screamed, disintegrating into ash as the light touched them. When it faded, the ground smoked and the night fell eerily quiet. Lucian was gone. So were most of his followers. Arya collapsed, trembling.
Cairo caught her, his heart pounding against hers. "You saved us," he murmured. Her eyes fluttered open. "No," she whispered weakly. "I destroyed them." He cuts her face, eyes soft with fear and wonder. "No, my Luna. You became what the prophecy warned, the light that burns the dark." He lifted his gaze to the moon, its red glow fading into silver. "But if my brother survived, then this was only the beginning."
The morning after the blood moon was heavy with silence. The courtyard, once a battlefield, lay shrouded in mist. Ash drifted through the air like falling snow, clinging to Arya's skin. Every sound was distant. The crackle of smoldering torches, the soft flap of banners torn by claws. She woke in the king's chamber, sunlight brushing over the stone walls. Her shoulder ached, wrapped in clean linen. The scent of rain lingered, mixed with something wilder. Him. For a long moment, she just listened to the heartbeat beside her bed. "You shouldn't be awake," came his low voice. The Lycan King stood by the window, shirtless, scars glinting in the light. His golden eyes were calm but restless, as if holding back a storm. "What happened last night?" she asked, her voice a whisper. He turned slowly, expression unreadable. "You saved us, and almost lost yourself doing it." His gaze dropped to her shoulder, where the mark still pulsed faintly beneath her bandage. "That power? It's ancient. It shouldn't exist anymore." Arya frowned. "You said something about prophecy." Cairo's jaw tightened. "The moonfire appears only when the balance between kings is broken." He looked away. "Lucian was supposed to be dead, but he carries my blood, and the throne was meant to be his." Arya blinked. "He's your brother?" The silence between them stretched thin. Finally, Cairo nodded. "Twin-born under the same eclipse. One blessed by the moon, the other cursed by shadow." His hand clenched at his side. "I killed him once, or thought I did." The room darkened as clouds covered the sun. Arya sat up, wincing. "If he's alive, he'll come for you." Cairo gave a low growl. "No, he'll come for you. He wants what I have, power, the bond, you." He stepped closer, his voice dropping into that dangerous softness she'd come to fear and crave. "Last night, when you called my name, I lost control. The beast inside me, he responds to you." Arya swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to." "You did," he interrupted gently. "And that's what saved us." His eyes met hers, fierce and aching. "But it also tied your life to mine. If I fall, so do you." The truth hit like a blade. Arya's hands trembled. "Then teach me to survive," she said quietly. Cairo studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Training begins at dusk." He turned, his cloak flaring as he left the room. Alone again, Arya touched her chest, where the bond pulsed faintly. Every heartbeat echoed his. Every thought seemed to circle back to that voice, deep, rough, trembling when he'd said she drove him insane. But beneath the pull was something else, fear, not of him, but for him. Somewhere in the castle, whispers began spreading. The human who carried moonfire, the cursed queen who burned the rogues to ash. The servants wouldn't meet her eyes. Power drew both worship and dread. When night fell, the training ground shimmered under torchlight. Cairo waited at the center, barefoot, his hair tied back, his gaze sharp. The moonfire feeds on emotion. Control it or it will consume you. Arya nodded, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. He reached out, pressing 2 fingers against her pulse. "Focus here. Feel the bond." She closed her eyes. The world blurred. Heat surged through her veins, wild and bright. Her hands glowed faintly, but then an image flashed across her mind. Lucian's grin in the flames. The glow flickered, then vanished. Cairo's grip tightened. "He's reaching for you," he muttered, "through the bond." Arya gasped, stumbling back. A cold voice echoed in her head.
Sister of the light, the moon cannot protect you forever. The torches dimmed. Cairo pulled her close, his arms tense. He's still alive, she whispered, voice trembling, and he knows where we are. Cairo's gaze hardened, gold turning to molten amber. Then the hunt begins, he said, his voice low with promise. But this time, I won't fight him alone.
The storm came without warning. One moment the sky was clear, the next the moon was swallowed by crimson clouds. Every wolf in the kingdom felt it, the pull of the blood moon. Drums echoed through the forest, low and ancient. From the northern ridge came shadows on horseback, their armor black as pitch. The rogues were returning, but not as broken fugitives. They rode as an army. From her window, Arya watched the torches appear in the distance, hundreds of them, moving like veins of fire through the mist. Her mark burned, hot and unrelenting. He's here. Cairo was already in the war hall, issuing orders, his voice calm but edged with something primal. Seal the gates. Evacuate the southern wing. Keep the Louna guarded. His commanders bowed, scattering. But as Arya entered, every head turned. She wasn't dressed like a queen. She wore the black leathers of a fighter, her hair braided, her eyes fierce. I won't hide, she said firmly. You can't protect me if I don't learn to protect myself. Cairo met her gaze, jaw clenched. You'll stay where it's safe. There is no safe, she snapped. The bond pulsed between them, sharp and alive. He wanted to argue, but her mark glowed, and the air around her shimmered. He exhaled slowly. Then fight beside me, but promise me one thing. If I fall, run. She shook her head. No, if you fall, I burn the world. Outside, the horns sounded. The first wave hit the gates like thunder. Wolves and men collided, steel flashing beneath the blood-colored moon. Arya followed Cairo into the chaos, her fear drowned by the pulse of the moonfire. Every breath felt borrowed, every heartbeat shared. The field glowed with fire and blood. Lucian appeared through the smoke, his blade dripping crimson. "Little brother," he called, voice mocking, "still letting your heart rule your throne?" The Cairo shifted, claws sliding free, eyes blazing gold. "You talk too much." They clashed, strength meeting strength. The ground shook. Sparks rained around them. Arya tried to reach them, but the bond twisted painfully in her chest, forcing her to her knees. The light from her mark pulsed wildly, reacting to their rage. Lucian grinned mid-duel. "She feels it, doesn't she?" he taunted. "Your precious Louna. Every strike, every wound." He feinted left, then slashed across Cairo's shoulder. Arya screamed as the same pain tore through her. "Stop!" she cried, the word cracking like thunder. Power surged from her body, blowing back both brothers. Silence fell. The wind itself seemed to bow. Arya's eyes glowed silver. "Enough," she shouted. "No more blood." But Lucian only laughed, stepping through the dust. "You think love will save him? You think the moon favors you? You're just another curse and a pretty disguise." He raised his sword, but Cairo moved faster, catching the blade with his bare hands, blood pouring down his palms. "Maybe I am cursed, but she's my cure." With a roar, Cairo drove his brother back, their strength cracking the earth beneath them. Arya's light intensified until it blinded the battlefield. "Cairo!" she shouted. He looked back, just once, and in that instant, Lucian struck. The blade sank deep. The world stopped. Cairo staggered, blood on his lips. Arya's scream split the night. The moon fire inside her erupted again, but this time she didn't hold it back. Silver fire consumed everything. Rogues, weapons, even the clouds. The red moon shattered into fragments of light. When the glow faded, the battlefield was silent. Lucian was gone. Cairo lay motionless in the ashes, his chest barely rising. Arya crawled to him, tears mixing with soot. "No," she whispered. "You can't leave me." His fingers brushed her cheek weakly. "You're stronger than I ever was," he breathed.
Don't let the fire die. His hand fell away. The mark on her chest flickered once, then dimmed. The Lycan King was still. Arya pressed her forehead against his, sobbing as the night swallowed her cries. Around them, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The blood moon had fallen, but its curse was not broken. Somewhere beyond the forest, a familiar voice whispered on the wind, "This isn't over, my queen."
The dawn after the battle was gray, silent, and cruel. Smoke still curled from the ruins of the courtyard. The once golden banners of the Lycan kingdom hung in tatters, soaked with ash and blood. Arya knelt beside the king's still form, the cold seeping into her bones. The world around her was moving, healers rushing, soldiers whispering, but she felt trapped inside a moment that refused to end. His hand was still warm, but the pulse beneath his skin had gone quiet. "He's gone," someone whispered. The words shattered her like glass. She turned, her voice shaking but sharp. "Don't you dare say that." Her hands glowed faintly, silver against his chest. The moonfire flickered to life, desperate, searching. "You said I could save you," she whispered. "You said you'd stay." Tears streaked down her face, falling onto his blood-stained skin. The bond between them pulsed weakly, like an echo fading down a long corridor. "Don't go." She tried to push the power harder, but the energy recoiled, burning her palms. A healer ran forward. "My queen, please stop. You'll kill yourself." Arya didn't move. "Then let it kill me." The moonfire flared one last time, then dimmed completely. The mark on her chest went dark. The Lycan King didn't breathe again. By dusk, the wolves began to mourn. They gathered in the ruined courtyard, heads bowed as the funeral pyre was built. Arya stood beside it, wrapped in his cloak, her face unreadable. The elders chanted the ancient rites, calling to the moon goddess to guide his spirit home. But Arya's eyes stayed on the flames. When the torches were lowered, the fire leapt high, painting her in gold and red. Every face turned to her, expecting her to cry, to break. She didn't. The mark on her skin was gone, but the ache in her chest burned deeper than fire. A cold wind swept across the pyre, scattering the ashes into the air. She whispered, "You promised me forever." The smoke rose toward the moon, carrying what little was left of him. That night, she couldn't sleep. The palace was too quiet. Every shadow felt alive. Every gust of wind carried his voice. She wandered into the throne room, now cracked, the marble scorched. His crown lay abandoned on the steps, bent and blackened. When she reached for it, a whisper rippled through the air. "The bond isn't broken." She froze. The voice wasn't her imagination. It was the bond itself, faint but alive. The moonfire within her stirred again, weak but present. "Show me," she whispered. Her vision blurred, the world shifted. Suddenly, she stood in a vast dark forest, the trees glowing faintly blue. In the center lay Cairo, his body encased in ice. The bond pulsed through her. "You're not gone," she breathed. "You're trapped." But before she could move closer, another presence emerged from the shadows. Lucian. His smile was soft, almost sad. "You think death would stop me?" he said. "We are bound by more than blood now. The moonfire didn't destroy me, it freed me." He stepped closer, his eyes glowing faint red.
And if you bring him back, you'll bring me with him. Arya's heart pounded. Then I'll find another way. Lucian tilted his head. There is no other way, little Luna. The fire you carry is the same that binds us. One cannot live without the other. He turned, fading into the mist. Choose carefully. Arya gasped and woke on the throne room floor, heart racing, breath shallow. The crown lay beside her, its metal still warm. The bond pulsed faintly again, alive, waiting. For the first time, she wasn't sure if saving him would save the world or end it. She lifted the crown, eyes blazing. Then I'll burn through every shadow to bring you home, even if it means facing hell itself.
The night bled into dawn, but Arya didn't see the sunrise. She stood barefoot at the edge of the sacred lake, the mist curling around her ankles like pale hands. The moonfire within her pulsed erratically, half light, half shadow. She had read the ancient texts 1,000 times, but none prepared her for the silence that followed summoning the moon goddess herself. The water rippled, the reflection of the moon shifting even though the sky was clear. Then a voice, soft but commanding, filled the air. "Why have you come here, child of fire?" Arya's breath hitched. The lake began to glow, and from the mist emerged a woman made of silver light, her eyes older than time, the moon goddess. Arya fell to her knees. "Please," she whispered, "I need him back. The Lycan King, Cairo. He's trapped beyond death, and I can feel him calling to me." The goddess's gaze was unreadable. "You would disturb the balance of life and death for love." Arya's hands trembled. For the bond, for destiny, for everything he died protecting. The goddess tilted her head. "Love is not meant to conquer death, Arya. It is meant to endure it." Arya's tears fell into the glowing water, and the lake rippled like glass breaking. "Then let it endure through him, through us. I'll give anything." The goddess's eyes darkened. Anything? The wind stilled, and even the crickets fell silent. Arya nodded, her voice steady. Anything. The goddess raised her hand, and the lake darkened, turning from silver to black. To bring back the king, the moonfire must burn something equal to his soul. The air thickened, pressing against Arya's lungs. "What does that mean?" she whispered. The goddess's voice softened, almost mournful. "It means you must surrender your humanity. Once you cross that line, you will not be mortal, nor wolf, nor queen. You will be something in between." Arya's mind raced. "If it brings him back, I'll do it." The goddess stepped closer, her light casting long shadows across the water. "You speak from love, but love is not pure when driven by loss. If you resurrect him, the bond that ties your hearts will darken. He will live, but what wakes inside him may not be the man you remember." Arya's pulse quickened, her heart tearing between fear and devotion. "Then I'll teach him to be himself again," she said. The goddess looked away. "And if he cannot be saved?" Arya swallowed hard. "Then I'll burn with him." The moon goddess raised her hand. A beam of light shot into Arya's chest, and she screamed, the sound echoing through the forest. Her veins lit with fire, the moon fire twisting violently, burning her from the inside out. Visions flashed before her eyes. Cairo's face, his smile, his last breath, his body trapped in the ice. "Follow the bond," the goddess whispered. "But remember, every life restored steals another." Then everything went dark. When Arya opened her eyes again, she was no longer by the lake. She stood in a world of endless silver mist, the ground cracked with glowing veins of blue light. The air smelled of cold fire.
It was the in-between, the realm where lost souls lingered. In the distance she saw him, Cairo, encased in glass-like ice, his chest faintly glowing. She ran, every step heavy with power and pain. As she touched the ice, it burned her palms, but she didn't stop. Cairo, she whispered, her tears sizzling against the frost. Come back to me. The bond flared, wild and blinding. The ice began to crack, a deep roar echoing through the mist. His hand twitched, his eyes flickered open, silver like the moon. But before Arya could breathe, she felt another presence behind her. Lucian stepped out from the mist, his smile cruel. Told you, he murmured. One cannot live without the other. The ice shattered. Cairo gasped for air, and the world trembled. Arya turned, her power burning through her veins. Then I'll end this, she said. Lucian smiled wider. You can't, because you just brought me back, too. The mist exploded into flame.
The explosion of light and smoke left Arya gasping on her knees. The ground beneath her pulsed like a living heart, each beat louder, heavier, hungrier. When the haze cleared, she saw him. Cairo, the Lycan King, alive. He was kneeling amid the cracked ice, his hair wet and dark, his bare chest rising with shallow, ragged breaths. The moon fire burned across his skin in shifting silver veins. He looked up, eyes blazing with that familiar feral glow, silver, then red. Her heart stumbled in her chest. Cairo, she whispered. He turned his head slowly, as if hearing her voice through water. Arya? The sound of her name from his lips shattered her restraint. She ran to him, collapsing into his arms. For a moment, the world felt whole again. But then she felt it. His heartbeat was wrong. Too slow. Too cold. She pulled back. His days flickered, confusion twisting into something darker. What did you do? His voice was deep, rasping, layered with a faint echo. You brought me back. Her words were soft, trembling with devotion and fear. He looked at his hands, watching the veins of silver flicker red. I was in the dark, he said slowly, but something else was there, watching me. The air around them thickened, the mist rippled, and from behind, Lucian stepped forward, his smirk faint but cruel. I was there, brother, he said. You carried me with you, just as I told her. Arya stood, shielding Cairo. You're not part of him anymore. Lucian tilted his head. Oh, but I am. We share the same blood, the same curse. You tore the balance apart when you pulled him out. Cairo's eyes darted between them, his body trembling. I can feel him inside me, he growled, clutching his chest, like fire under my skin. The moon fire flared again, and suddenly a wave of energy burst from his body, knocking them both back. Arya hit the ground hard, breath stolen from her lungs. When she looked up, Cairo was on his knees, clutching his head, growling in agony. His claws dug into the dirt, tearing through stone. Get out of my head, he roared. Lucian only laughed. Ha 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 ha, you can't fight it. You and I are one now. Arya forced herself up, blood trickling from her temple. Then I'll separate you, she said through gritted teeth. Lucian's eyes flashed red. You'll destroy him trying. He vanished into smoke, disappearing into Cairo's shadow. The forest fell silent, but Cairo's body convulsed. His breathing became sharp and uneven, his silver eyes flickering between human and monstrous. Arya, he gasped, stay back. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. No, I brought you back. I won't lose you again. He slammed his fist into the ground, cracking it. It's not me you lose. His voice was no longer just his. It carried Lucian's echo. The bond between them pulsed violently, light and shadow intertwining. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest, feeling both their energies clashing beneath his skin. Cairo, listen to me, she said, tears spilling freely now. You're stronger than him. Fight it. His eyes softened for a heartbeat, silver shining through. I'm trying, he whispered, but he's winning. The moon fire erupted again, swirling around them like a storm. The ground split open and screams of lost souls echoed from below.
Arya held him tighter. Then I'll fight with you. The world twisted, light bending around them. The bond flared so bright it blinded her, and suddenly they weren't in the forest anymore. They were inside Cairo's mind. It was a wasteland of shattered memories, fire and snow colliding under a crimson sky. Ahead, two figures stood, Cairo and Lucian, mirror images of one another, locked in combat. Arya stepped forward, the moonfire burning in her palms. "Then I'll fight where it began," she whispered. She ran into the storm. The crimson sky churned above like boiling blood. Arya stood ankle-deep in ash, her chest heaving as she watched the two figures clash in the distance, Cairo and Lucian. Every strike shook the ground, echoing through the hollowed-out wasteland of Cairo's mind. Sparks of moonfire exploded where their claws met. Each blow wasn't just flesh against flesh, it was memory against memory, light against darkness. Arya gritted her teeth and ran forward, the air thick with smoke and whispers. The ground beneath her feet pulsed like a heartbeat, alive with Cairo's pain. She could feel him breaking apart, the bond that tethered them fraying with each scream. "Cairo!" she shouted. But he didn't hear her. He was fighting blind, his eyes flickering between rage and despair, while Lucian's laughter echoed like thunder. Arya's vision blurred as she forced herself closer. Every step burned. The closer she got, the louder the voices grew. Thousands of whispers twisting through the fog. They weren't Lucian's. They were Cairo's memories of his first kill, his first crown, his first heartbreak. The weight of centuries pressed down on her chest, but she pushed through, her body shaking with exhaustion. Ahead, Cairo stumbled, Lucian's claws slicing across his chest, spilling silver fire instead of blood. "You were always weak," Lucian hissed, voice dripping with venom. "Love was your undoing." He drove his knee into Cairo's ribs and pinned him down. "She's not your salvation, brother. She's your leash." Arya's scream tore through the air. The moonfire in her veins surged, turning her eyes pure white. The wasteland shook. Lucian turned just in time to see her raise her hand. "You don't belong here," she said, her voice trembling with power. "You're nothing but the shadow he outgrew." She thrust her hand forward. A pulse of moonfire erupted, hitting Lucian square in the chest and sending him flying backward. Cairo gasped for air, collapsing to the ground. The entire world around them flickered like a dying flame. "Arya," he rasped, reaching toward her. She knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his chest. His heart was fading, not because of Lucian's attack, but because his body outside was dying. "If you stay here too long," he said weakly, "you'll die with me." She shook her head, tears spilling down her face. "Then we die together." He smiled faintly. "You were never meant to be my ending. You were meant to be my beginning." Behind them, Lucian rose again, burned but alive. His voice dripped with fury. "You think love can kill a god?" he snarled. The sky cracked open, lightning pouring down in spirals of red and silver. "You're both just pieces of me now." He lunged, faster than sound. Arya threw herself in front of Cairo. The impact sent shockwaves through her chest, pain erupting like molten fire. She fell to her knees, clutching her ribs, but the moonfire didn't fade. It grew. She looked up, her eyes glowing with something beyond mortal. "You're wrong," she said softly. "Love doesn't kill gods. It replaces them." She stood, light bursting from her skin, her voice echoing like a chorus. "Cairo, take my power." He shook his head weakly. "It'll destroy you." "Then let it," she whispered. "You gave me life. I'll give you freedom." She pressed her hand to his chest. Their bond ignited, two souls fusing into one flare of divine fire. Lucian screamed as the light tore through him, his form fracturing, burning, fading into nothing but dust. The wasteland crumbled. The crimson sky turned white. And as everything collapsed around them, Cairo caught her hand. "Don't let go," he said. She smiled through the tears. "Never." The light swallowed them whole.
Silence. Then breath. Arya's chest rose, slowly, painfully. The air that filled her lungs was cold, pure, and heavy with the scent of rain. When she opened her eyes, she wasn't in the wasteland anymore. She was lying in the ruins of the Moonstone Palace. The once golden hall was split in two, moonfire glowing through the cracks like veins of liquid silver. Beside her, Cairo stirred. His body trembled, his wounds gone, but his aura felt different, stronger, wilder. She reached for him, but as her fingers brushed his, a surge of energy rippled through the ground, shaking the shattered pillars. His eyes opened, no longer golden, but blazing white. "You brought me back," he whispered. "No," she said softly, tears falling. "We brought each other back." He sat up, taking her hand, his thumb brushing over her wrist. The bond between them thrummed, not fragile anymore, but unbreakable. But peace didn't last long. From outside, howls echoed across the ruined valley, hundreds of them. The surviving Lycans, their eyes red with confusion and rage, surrounded the palace remains. Arya's pulse quickened. "They think you're dead," she said. "They saw Lucian consume you." Cairo stood, his power crackling through the air, moonfire swirling around him like a cloak. Then it's time they see who truly wears the crown. He stepped forward, bare-chested, his scars faintly glowing. The alpha's mark burned brighter than ever. But as he moved, he faltered. The power inside him flickering, unstable. Arya caught him by the arm. "Lucian's power is still inside you," she said. "If you lose control, then you stop me," he said, meeting her gaze. "If I can't be king without my soul, I'd rather die as your mate." Outside, the storm broke. Thunder roared as the Lycans began to shift, their massive forms blotting out the moonlight. Arya could feel their rage, not pure hatred, but fear. They had followed Lucian's lies, believing Cairo had betrayed them. Now the truth had returned to haunt them. Cairo stepped into the open, the rain soaking his hair, his white eyes gleaming. "My brothers," he shouted, his voice carrying over the storm. "You've bled for this kingdom, you've died for it. But I was never your enemy, he was." He raised his hand, summoning a beam of moonfire that tore open the clouds, revealing the real moon, no longer red, but silver again. The Lycans paused, their snarls fading into low growls. Some shifted back into human form, their faces filled with confusion and awe. "Lucian's reign is over," Cairo said, his voice breaking. "But the blood we've lost, I carry it. Every death, every scream, every name." Arya stepped beside him, her white gown billowing in the wind. Her presence silenced the last of the howls. "You've followed fear long enough. Now follow something stronger. Hope." A murmur spread through the crowd. Slowly, one by one, the Lycans knelt, their claws scraped against the wet stone, forming a ring around Cairo and Arya. And in that moment, the storm eased. The moonlight fell directly on Cairo, illuminating the faint crown of light forming above his head, not forged by iron, but by fire and love. The moonfire crown. Arya watched as the glow steadied, his power aligning with hers, two halves of one soul, finally balanced. But even as the kingdom bowed, a tremor of fear rippled through her heart. Cairo's body was still trembling, his breathing shallow. She could see it in his eyes. The war inside him wasn't over. Lucian's shadow still lived, whispering deep in his veins. Arya touched his face gently. "You're not free yet," she said quietly. "No," he replied, his voice low, a hint of sorrow threading through it. "But for the first time, I want to be." He looked out over his people.
the silver light reflecting in his tears. Tomorrow, I will face what's left of him, alone. Arya shook her head. No, we finish this together. He smiled weakly, always defiant. He leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. Then, together it is. And behind them, the moonfire crown pulsed once, as if acknowledging their vow. And far away, deep beneath the palace ruins, something ancient stirred. A whisper. A heartbeat. A promise that darkness never dies, it only waits.
The night was silent when Cairo entered the Temple of Shadows, a place older than the Lycan bloodline itself. The air was thick with incense and memory. Ancient symbols pulsed faintly on the stone walls, glowing with the same pale fire that ran through his veins. Behind him, the wind howled like an omen. Ahead, the final gate loomed, carved from obsidian, bound by chains that shimmered with silver light. This was where Lucien's essence had been sealed, long before Cairo was born. Now, the bond between them had fractured the cage. Every heartbeat drew Cairo closer to the edge of himself. His claws flexed, his breath came out as fog. And though he'd told Arya to stay behind, her scent lingered, soft, defiant, impossible to ignore. He looked up at the moon through the broken ceiling. "If I fall," he whispered, "let her remember me as more than my rage." But she didn't stay behind. Arya's footsteps echoed through the temple moments later, steady but trembling. When she saw him standing before the gate, her heart broke all over again. His back was bare, his shoulders trembling beneath the weight of power barely restrained. "You promised," she said softly. He didn't turn. "I did. But promises don't stop monsters, Arya." She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You're not a monster. You're the man who gave his people the moon again." His jaw clenched. "And he's the voice that still wants to take it back." The ground cracked as the obsidian chains began to rattle, a pulse of dark energy rippling outward. Cairo's eyes flashed white, then gold, then red. Lucien's laughter echoed faintly in the air. "You see? He's not gone. He's waiting." Arya took another step, her hand outstretched. "Then let me fight him with you." "No," he said, his voice breaking. "If you come closer, he'll use you against me." The air split open with a deafening roar. The gate exploded into shards of black glass, and from its center stepped Lucien, not as a shadow this time, but as flesh. His form was identical to Cairo's, save for the crimson fire burning in his eyes. "You can't kill what you are," Lucien growled. "You are me." He lunged. Cairo met him midair, claws clashing, the impact sending a shockwave that shattered the temple's pillars. Arya stumbled back as the world around them turned to chaos, stone collapsing, light flaring, lightning cracking across the moon. The brothers fought with the fury of gods, each strike tearing open old wounds, each scream echoing centuries of pain. Cairo was faster, stronger, but Lucien's power was endless, fed by every ounce of hatred buried in Cairo's heart. Arya saw it then. The truth. Lucien wasn't an intruder. He was Cairo's grief, given shape and will. And if Cairo killed him, he'd kill himself too. Arya's body moved before her mind could stop it. She threw herself between them, catching Cairo's wrists before he struck the killing blow. "Stop," she cried. "He's part of you, and you can't destroy yourself to save me." Cairo froze, his claws inches from Lucien's throat. Lucien's eyes widened, the fire within them flickering for the first time. "What are you doing?" he snarled. Arya turned toward him, tears streaming down her face. "You were never his curse. You were his pain, his need to survive when no one else would." The temple shook violently. Lucien screamed, his form flickering, breaking apart under her words. You were never cursed, she continued, voice cracking. No one ever saw you, but I do. She reached out, pressing her hand against Lucien's chest. The crimson fire dimmed. For a moment, he looked almost human. Thank you, he whispered, his voice trembling. Then he smiled faintly and vanished into light. The world went silent. Cairo fell to his knees, shaking, gasping for air. Arya knelt beside him, pulling him into her arms. It's over, she whispered. You're free. His eyes met hers clear and golden again. No, he murmured. We're free. Outside, the clouds broke, revealing the full moon, bright and untainted. The surviving Lycans lifted their heads and howled, the sound carrying through the mountains like a song of rebirth. The Temple of Shadows crumbled, leaving nothing but a ring of silver fire that surrounded Cairo and Arya. He looked at her, his voice a soft growl. You gave me peace, and you gave me purpose. She smiled through her tears. Then don't waste it. Be the king they need. He shook his head. No, we will be. He took her hand, their bond glowing like dawn itself. As the first rays of morning touched the ruins, the new alpha pair stood together, no longer haunted, no longer divided. Around them, the Lycans knelt in reverence, their eyes filled with something they hadn't felt in centuries, hope. The howl that rose from Cairo's chest was deep and pure, echoing through every valley and heart that ever belonged to his kind. It was not a cry of war nor of loss, but of life. Arya joined him, her voice blending with his, their souls singing in harmony beneath the moon's fading glow. And when the last echo faded, only the wind remained, carrying a single truth across the mountains. The curse was never the beast. It was forgetting what it meant to love. Thank you for staying till the end. Please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.